Peace, everybody. What's going on? This is Rastafunk, Internalize, every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. We come to you with some hopefully revolutionary thought and conversation. Basically, it stems from an internalized series I have on my Facebook post where posts come across and we comment on them and give our thoughts on them, and it's grown into us doing a live about it. And we're here every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. And tell your friends. Everybody's welcome to tune in. What we do is in the chat we put a link so that everyone who's watching, if you decide to give your opinion, you're definitely welcome to hit the link in the chat. While we're on, we have our Cash App banner going, $ the original Rastafunk, $ capital T the capital Z O original and capital R Rastafunk, the original Rastafunk. If you want to contribute and help us out and keep this thing going. Usually, well, not usually, but sometimes we'll go ahead and start with some Rastafunk music. So today we're going to give you Revolutionary Lover, a Rastafunk song we did on our Universal Soul project. Hope you enjoy it.
They say the world needs sweet love, but if we use what we have, we've already got enough. So love through all seasons, and love even when you don't have a reason. Some people save love for romance, but that's not giving love half of a chance. Some people hold back their love because of silly differences that have nothing to do with life or creation. Just think about a child with no love at all. You see, we all need love, no matter how big, no matter how small. But most of us have never had love receiving. I'm talking about for most of us, real love has never been given. Revolutionize your love, elevate your love, even when haters are taking over. Revolutionize your love, elevate your love, even when haters are taking over. Revolutionize your love, elevate your love, even when haters taking over. Revolutionize your love, celebrate your love, even when haters taking over. Revolutionize your love. Your love. Elevate your love. It is taking over. Revolutionize your love. Celebrate your love. Create this
All right. All right. Revolutionary Nova, y'all. That's what's up. So tonight's subject is the power. Wow. The power of culture. And it's real interesting that my title got changed somehow. Let me I just want to look on my Facebook because I see that it's wrong on everything else, and I'm just trying to understand why. That's crazy to me, y'all. That my title got changed. Like it's sabotage. Because I know trend is wow. That's crazy. That's crazy, y'all. Okay, we're gonna move forward. We're not gonna even think about it. We're doing the power of culture, not the power of trend. Not sure how that got changed. That is completely amazing and crazy to me. But you know, I told you a long time ago, we got some tight booty people that we're dealing with their particular platform, and because we're dealing with their particular platform, certain things happen that we can't explain. So at some point I'll go back and I'll change the title so that people who come on and watch the live after we actually do it, if you decide to watch it on the Wednesday, because you can always find our lives on YouTube, on my Facebook channel, and on my X account, and just go to Rastafunk on any of those platforms, and you'll be able to check out any of our lives we've done. And this one we'll go back and change it so that it is the power of culture. And like I said, I'm not really sure how my title got changed, and we're not going to worry about it. We're going to keep moving. This is the power of trend. The power of culture. And yeah, that's what we're going to talk about tonight, culture. Let me see. I'm going to look up the word culture and see exactly what the actual meaning is. I didn't do this before because it wasn't, because I'm not sure that it's going to jive with what actual culture is. Because sometimes meanings are arbitrary. So culture, the arts and other manifestations of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively. The customs, arts, social institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, people, or other social groups. All right. I see what they're saying. But that's not what I'm going to deem culture. What I deem culture is this. You have one of two cultures, and it started with the first peoples. You had the peoples of the North, and you had the peoples of the South. And when you say the North, you're basically talking about above the equator, and the South is below the equator. And when you go around the equator, what you'll find in the people of the South is one general culture stemming from the original village. And this is more of a socialist culture. And what happens is you don't have jails, you don't have homeless people, you don't have crime as we know it. You don't have crime as we know it. And if any of these things do happen, it is not the norm. The norm is everybody eats, everybody works, everybody is a part of family. And pretty much the people that don't fit in this particular category would be, let's call them nomads who traveled around. And what happens in this Southern culture is when these nomads or these travelers come through villages, the villages welcome them. The villages feed them. If they want to stay, they can be a part of the village. But that is the basic culture of the global South. And when you start going northward above the equator in the global North, the culture changes. The culture changes to a culture of winning at all costs. Now, why is it different? Why is it different? It's different because in the South, you don't have to necessarily fight against nature in order to survive. The weather is nice year round. You have trees that bear fruit, forests that bear food from the ground up, and all of this is plentiful. Because all of this is plentiful, people were able to thrive. People were able to build and civilize themselves. However, when you go up to the global North, it was just the opposite. You had harsh climate. You had to battle against other animals just to find food. You didn't have plentiful trees that dropped fruit. You didn't have plentiful forests that grew food up from the ground. So it was a constant battle to survive. A constant battle to survive. So that particular culture was a win at all cost culture. And today, we're still dealing with that same thing. We're still dealing with those two cultures. You have a culture of humanity and social thriving collectively. And then you have a culture of win at all costs. Humanity is not in the picture at all. It's win at all costs, which is why in this capitalistic society we live in the West, it's basically money and resources that are seen as capital, as opposed to in places where, and typically in the global South, where they're thriving and where they're having a pretty decent society and some growth, they're including not only capital as money and resources, but they're also including human capital, their people, and they're also including environmental capitalism. So the things they're doing is going, how they're building is within the path of how the earth is moving. It's not just we're going to tear up the forest and build what we want and level off everything and just modernize everything and kill the earth. It's no, let's work with the earth and what's going on in order for us to deal with all aspects so that we're in harmony with what's happening on the earth, in harmony in what's happening with our people, in harmony in what's happening with our growth. So those are the basic two cultures that we're dealing with, even to today. A culture of humanity and a culture of winning at all costs. And the culture of winning at all costs is what creates winners and losers, as opposed to everybody eats. It's winner takes all. And if you can get on the winning team, you may be able to get some crumbs off the winner's table. And that's what we see today when we see people working and barely surviving. 40-hour week, one job, and they're barely surviving. 40-hour week, one job, so you feel like, hey, I need to do something else to make some money. So you got to have 2 or 3 side hustles. It's real interesting. I do contract work for apartment complexes. And it's always amazing for me when I'm there and the people are saying they do side work, doing like HVAC or plumbing or something like that. And so whenever they tell me that, I ask them, I say, how much you made off the side work? Oh man, I made some money. You know, you sell an AC for this much and this much. Oh, you know, it plumbing, it take this long. So, I charge about an hour, da, 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 da. And I'm like, well, if that is making more money than you're making on your job is the side hustle. That's actually, that should be your career. What you call the side hustle. That's where you should be putting more time and effort in. And I understand, keeping something steady coming in, because as a trades person, it can be seasonal. It definitely can be seasonal. But at the same time, the culture of accepting that that's the only way, having a job and working for somebody, and hoping that that person will give you more money while you're working, that culture is part of the winners losers culture. That's part of the winner takes all culture. That doesn't account for human capitalism. That doesn't account for environmental capitalism. It only accounts for what I can get and how I can get it, and get it at all cost. That's the basic um, 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 that's the basic culture that's passed on from the North. And what has happened over time is, through wars and through colonization, the North has pretty much taken over the resources of the South. And because they've done that, they've been able to push that winner take all culture worldwide. So that now, if you don't play along, you pretty much better have a really, really good plan and a really, really good army to defend anything you're trying to do. Because anyone that tries to do something different than how the North has it, the winner take all, typically they're put in a position where they have to defend themselves against northern powers. So with that said, what you find in the North, as opposed to a culture of honoring people who've done well for humanity, you find that most of the statues are of people who've killed people. Most of the statues are of conquerors. Most of the people that they look up to and that they talk about as great men are conquerors. People who've actually killed entire civilizations, are people who've taken some land and given it to northern powers. That is what we find as part of the culture. And what happens with that type of deal is it perpetuates that same winner take all culture. When you're being educated, basically the people you learn about are conquerors. Like literally, in America, there's a Columbus Day, a whole day for a conqueror, a whole day. In the last, I guess, 10 years or so, you've had a big push to call it Indigenous Day and to, just change that whole concept, because you got some people trying to wake up. But it still becomes a token, because you can change a holiday to a different name, but are you still going to work on Monday, enslaving and barely surviving? Is the society accounting for your effort and making sure that everyone can survive in a real way? So you get a lot of token handouts in the winner take all circle, because when it's all said and done, it's only a few people on top, and they're always afraid that the masses could possibly wake up. What are they waking up to? They're waking up to, this isn't a culture that regards humanity highly. That's what they're waking up to. So versus allowing people to wake up to that, what happens is you get tokens. You get a Martin Luther King holiday, although without actually acknowledging, hey, Martin Luther King was actually becoming a little militant, and we had to get rid of him. They don't acknowledge that. And you wouldn't know that if you read literature about him. You would have to deep dive and actually see the changes that he made in his last speeches and understand that I have a dream. That's great. But he moved from I have a dream of us all getting together. He moved from that to, oh man, I think I've been integrating my people into a burning house. That's awakening. That's awakening from this winning and losing culture and understanding that you can't integrate into it. You can't integrate into it. The other thing you're not going to be able to do is change the mind of the winners. You're not going to change the mind of the winners. Why? Power doesn't give up power. I spoke about education last night, and I pretty much the basic synopsis is education is teaching the student to be more powerful than you are. That definition of education only works in a society that regards humanity highly. That definition only works in a society that deals with the four types of capitalism. The four types of capital, not just money and resources. Deals with money, resources, people capital, and environmental capitalism. Deals with all of those different things. And it takes it all into consideration. And that's how you're able to pass on power, because you're teaching an all-encompassing lesson. You could be a good person, but you can't be a good person and go kill people and take their resources. That's not a good person. But in a winners versus winners or losers culture, that's a great person. He killed all them people and took their land, and he's a winner. That's a great person. However, in human culture that regards humanity highly, it's the builders of humanity and society who are uplifted. Those are the people who are heroes. In the Pan-African society, our Pan-African culture, we look up to people like John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben, Sheikh Anta Diop. Why do we look up to them? Because we understand that there was a lot of culture that we lost. What's going on, Baba John? I see you out there, brother. I appreciate you. Yeah, one of my Tallahassee buddies. We went to school together. Yeah, so you're dealing with a culture that is regarding our history and wanting to know who we are, because the development of the quote unquote African American was we lost a lot of our knowledge, and the people who were giving that knowledge back to us and teaching it back to us and giving us solutions on how to rebuild our greater culture, those are our heroes. Those are the people we look up to. Many Pan-Africanists initially would say, hey, Malcolm X over Martin Luther King, because we won about integration. We understood that integration was not having your own, was not rebuilding Africa. It's immersing yourself in a winner-loser culture. We understood that. And so we look up to people who were giving us that information and helping us grow as individuals. Culture, the greater African American culture is our not African American culture. We're not going to go there quite yet. The greater Black American culture is based on that. Actually, is based on that definition that starts with arts and those type of manifestations in your society. So when you think of a Black American, you think of some type of athlete or some type of entertainer. But what you don't think of is some type of builder of society, some type of engineer, some type of mathematician. That's not what you think about. So that particular Black American culture that the world knows, it's not really a culture of winners. It's not a culture of winners. It's a culture of people winning while other people are losing and not eating. And they show you these people and say, this is what you want and this is who you want to be. But that only means that you're winning a real race of living while other people are suffering and losing that race. You have cultures within culture. You have the hip hop culture within the Black American experience. However, when you do try to do something that is creative and may change the world in a positive way, in a winner-loser culture, the winners take that over and they direct it so that at that point, once they involve themselves and start directing it, it becomes a winner takes all culture, not a culture of humanity. So while people big up hip hop culture, how's it building humanity? It more than anything, it builds integration. It allows other folks to integrate into things we're doing. Other folks to challenge us like they're as great as we are in doing our thing. That's what winner takes all. You know, you have a lot of people saying, we started country in a society that holds humanity in high regard. That would already be known and be taught. We will be dealing with the actual stories of how these different genres of music came about in a real way, as opposed to you actually have to study and go into your own particular deep dive to find these things out and to find that they're true. Because if you just watch the TV, just watch the video channels, the rock channel is only going to have mostly white rock bands. The country channel is going to have mostly white country bands. They're not going to include any of the innovators or any of the new people who may be doing it, or any of the people who've been doing it the whole time. You're not going to really hear about them. Why? Because in the winner-loser culture, the winners control the narrative. Period. And what is the narrative? The people who conquered are the greatest. And if you're not a conqueror, no one's going to remember you. Also, part of how the winners control the losers is by misinformation, controlling the information. If you go to CBS News at 6 o'clock and and then you turn to ABC News at 6 o'clock, turn to NBC News at 6 o'clock, move over to CNN, move over to MSNBC, move over to Fox. Pretty much it's the same stories. The only difference would be political sides, but it's the same stories. You got a Fox that will give you a different political slant on the same story. You got NBC, CBS, and all of them give you a different political side on the same story. So when it's all said and done, you're still dealing with that same Northern culture that's fighting against nature, fighting against the elements, the same culture that didn't have fruit dropping from trees, stealing other people's fruit. It's interesting because when you deal with capitalism in the West, because that's probably the most telling aspect of the winner-loser thing, you don't have, how do I want to put this? When you're dealing with capitalism in the West, you don't have it's almost like you're not dealing with humans, and you're turning anyone who buys into it into a non-human as well. Because humanity is not held in high regard. You build a culture where if you are on the street and homeless, people walk over you because you're a loser. And to me, that is inhumane. And if you allow inhumanity, it's to me, it's just crazy, that people who are under the most stress continue to live this way and think that it's okay. That culture of losing is okay. That culture of I may win the lottery one day is okay. Because if I win, it don't matter about anyone else. If I win, I ain't telling nobody I won. He won. It's not his responsibility to help his family or to help people. That's his money. And it's funny, I was talking to some brothers today, and one of them mentioned how there's a very wealthy African, I don't know his name, and the culture of winner loser has pervaded African leadership so much that this brother said, if you finish your term as leader, president or whatever, and there's no corruption, I'll give you $1 million to retire with. Let me repeat that. If you as an African leader can finish your term without any corruption, this brother's going to give that leader $1 million. He's literally paying African leaders not to be corrupt, not to steal from their people. That's ridiculous. But that shows how much that culture of win or losing has, invaded the places that the northern folks colonized. It shows how their culture of anti-humanity has, spread throughout the earth. That's crazy. That you got to be paid not to be corrupt. But at least it's identified and you got people trying to change it. In Africa. In America, man, lobbyists, man, everyone y'all elect, you're electing to go get paid and not represent you. Everyone you're electing to go get paid, become a winner, and not represent you, not represent the losers. That's how the leadership and the politics work in America. I can't tell you how it works in England or France or Spain or any other Western country. But in America, they're all bought. If there's anyone who isn't bought, they don't make a difference. It's not enough of them. As soon as they speak up, everyone shut up. Over the last, I guess, 8 years or so, they had the squad. What has the squad accomplished, y'all? How has this society changed? Are the losers doing any better because of the squad? No, that's the whole point. You're electing people to go get paid and not represent you. Anyone who decides they want to represent you, they're up against a brick wall. There's nothing they can do. Because you're not going to change a winner-loser culture. The winners are not going to give up power. You have to go places where it's not so pervasive and the people want to change. And then you need a brave person in front to want to make that change. And who knows how to implement that change. That's why we don't see much of it. Because most people who are put in positions of power are put there by folks who are winning on earth. They're not put there by the people. And it's real funny. Haiti's a prime example. Since Haiti fought and won for its independence, it's had a hard time. To the point that if they wanted to elect someone that they wanted, the Western powers, America especially, feels confident to just take that person out and put who they want in. South America, Central America, same thing goes on. They don't like the people in power. They take that person out and put who they want in. They're talking about free elections, and they monitor how other countries do their elections, and if they don't like it, they police it. America's the world police, the winners of the world. So if something's going on, they can send their people in your country and deal with it without with no regard to you. There was in the, I believe it was the mid 70s, there was a plane that got hijacked and it landed in, I don't know what country Entebe's in. I believe it. I want to say it's somewhere in the Congo, but I don't know. I'm not going to say. I remember the name of the city and the airport was Entebbe. They had a movie about it, Raid in Entebbe. But basically, some brothers hijacked the plane for political reasons, and it had some Israelis on it. Israel went in that African country and took their people without any regard, without calling anybody. They just went and took their people and went back home. Killed everybody that was in their way and went back home. Because the cultures of winners don't care about losers. The winners in that culture, they don't care about losers. You don't have any say. You think you do. But ask women in America about, can they have an abortion if they want to? Can they do what they want with their bodies? Ask all the brothers who are in jail for a marijuana charge as it becomes legal. And now they're downgrading it to not even a harmful drug. Ask all those brothers, are they winning? Who are in jail for that? It's totally inhumane. But that's the winner-loser culture that pretty much runs most of the world. You got certain pockets where people are trying to push away. Cuba, and I mention them all the time, tried to do their own thing, but they're locked out of the economic market of the world. El Salvador has a pretty decent leader. He's trying to implement some type of humanity within his culture. The first thing he did was lock up as many of the gang bangers that he could. Why did he do that? I mean, without any regard, he just started locking them cats up. Why did he do that? Well, because their culture was literally winners live, losers die. I've worked with two El Salvadorians. One's an older guy. One was he's about my age, maybe a little younger. Both of them moved to America to get away from death. Both of them mentioned that they didn't really send money home. They saved money to bring their family here. So that's why the president locked up the gangs, because the gangs ran the country. Because he was trying to make a change. Economically, he made the currency Bitcoin because he saw the future. And we'll talk about these things in a different podcast, but right now we're just talking about culture and the power of culture. So he was trying to change the culture of his country to not a winners and losers country, but to a country that held humanity in high esteem, to a country that's dealing with all the different forms of capital, not just natural resources and money. He got humans to deal with. He got an environment to deal with. What made me do the power culture tonight was I was on Facebook and someone mentioned that prosperous people how did he put it? A prosperous people created better culture. And what he was saying is if you give people more money, the culture will change. And I was like, that's not it at all. And let me back up. He was saying that the Black community in particular, if they were making more money, then the culture would change. And what I explained to him is that culture makes you make more money or makes you more active in your society. Not money makes the culture better. So for instance, people who are embedded in their culture and then come to America, they thrive. Way more than people who are born here. The people who come here thrive. Why? Because they know how to do more with less. They don't come here with millions of dollars. They come here and come up. The reason we don't come up collectively is because of the winner-loser culture. And the Black American has been on the loser side of that culture. And I will beat a dead horse. We've been building the wrong Black America. We continue to build losers. We continue to deal with this loser culture. That's the problem. We continue to build losers. Today at Morehouse, they graduated a whole class of losers. Anyone who sat there and listened to Biden, B-Y-E-D-E-N, Biden, was a loser. They started their adult life as a pawn. Continuing loser culture. How do you get out of loser culture? How do you change into a more humane culture? The first thing is you have to identify where you're at and what's going on. And that's the one thing that the losers in America won't do. They're the first ones to tell you America is the greatest country in the world. Why? What makes America the greatest country in the world? It used to be because you could come up and make money. But you know what? That's still the case. That doesn't make a country great. It makes a country a winner-loser situation. And the people who didn't come up and make money are the losers. But once you can identify what's going on where you're at, then you can identify where it's not happening and where they're trying to change that. But if you're so immersed in winner loser culture, then people who are trying to change are only going to look like losers to you because they're not racing. You never realize they don't have to race. They got fruit that fall off the ground. I mean, fall to the ground off the trees. They can plant things and it grow. To you, that looks like loser culture because no one's taking it from them. And then if anyone goes and take it from them, you look at them as great and they're winners, and I want to be a part of that. I want to be on the winning team. That's really why people used to like America, because people don't like America so much no more in the world. But they thought America was a winning team. That was it. It wasn't that they loved the American per se. They thought it was a winning team because the propaganda was put out there. But with that smartphone and with that Google and with that YouTube and all this information so close, you got people who don't come from a winner-loser culture looking at it totally different now. They're on the outside looking in. I tell Americans all the time, leave America. Don't go to Las Vegas. Don't go to LA. Don't go to New York. Use that money and leave outside of this country. Go see other cultures. Go see other cultures. Go see places where it's not winner versus loser. Go visit El Salvador. Go visit Kigali, Rwanda. Go visit Botswana. Go visit Singapore. For the top economic economy, for the top economy, top growing economies in the world, 4 of the top growing economies in the world that also regard humanity very highly, that is looking out for the people, the lowest of the low, making sure they have as well, not by government handouts, but by creating societies that can compete with the winners in the world without disregarding their people. They add their people in that. It's not one person that's saying, I'm going to win from my country against these winners in the world. Those leaders of those countries are saying, hey, my country and my people are going to become winners in this world. And I'm not going to get too deep into this particular aspect, but you got one cat who understands a much bigger picture. And he's taking it upon himself to deal with other countries to try to make them more humane as well. And we'll talk about it. Continue to stick with us and internalize. We'll do a whole show on that, brother. But right now, we just want to differentiate and talk about the power of culture. The power of culture allows you to come to a place like America and build and send money back home to your family so that they can do better. That's what the power of culture does, so that you're not involved or immersed in the winner-loser thing. Because you are immersed in your culture. Economically, culture matters. Why? When the last time you seen a Chinese person at a soul food restaurant? Unless they owned it and was serving you the soul food. They take that money and go back home and spend it with the other Chinese people in their community. Because they understand that if they don't, collectively they would lose. Within this winner-loser society. Their culture teaches them that. Mexicans, when they come up here, people laugh that they live 10 to a house. Their culture teaches them to build in a way, not splurge in a way, to build in a way that's conducive to everybody coming up. And then you see them go to the Mexican restaurants. You got 2 or 3 whole streets in Atlanta. Buford Highway, for example. Jonesboro Road. Whole streets, miles and miles of nothing but Mexican restaurants or Mexican stores. Where they're supporting each other and trying to make sure collectively they're not losers while they're over here. The winner-loser culture is pervasive. White and black who are raised up in this winner-loser culture typically stay losing unless they win the lottery and can not even really be a winner, but at least be able to not worry about eating. Because if you think you're a winner, kneel at the football game during the national anthem. If you think you're a winner, don't take the vaccine when they are mandating it. You're still sitting at the foot of the table of the actual winners. You're just getting more crumbs than everybody else. And that becomes cultural. That becomes the culture that you're used to. If you ever cooked spaghetti, you have to put spaghetti in a strainer after it boils so that you can get all the water out. And so you pick the strainer up and the water falls out from the bottom. In a winner-loser culture, to become a winner from being a loser, it's the same thing as if you turn that strainer over and the water was flowing up out of it. How likely is that to happen? You turn it over, all the spaghetti fall out and the water. So how likely is water to flow up through the holes? That's how likely it is for you to become a winner from being a loser in winner-loser culture. It's totally inhumane. Totally inhumane. The same thing that's been happening for thousands of years. The global north was able to take over the global south and implement that same disregard for humanity, that same fight against nature. And we're actually in the last 50 years, or so, you've had people actually try to make some actual change within their countries. because you're not going to change the winner countries. You're not going to change the global north from trying to win. Why? Because the global north don't have natural resources. Remember, when you're dealing with capital, you got money, natural resources, human capital, and environmental. The global north doesn't have the natural resource. So they must steal it in order to own it. Why? Because from day one, they've been fighting nature. They've been fighting everything just to survive. That's all they know. And power doesn't give up power. So now that they control things, what are they going to do if they let it go? Are those people going to look out for us? The greatest fear is the same. The greatest fear of a winner is that if a loser wins, they'll do them the same way they've been doing losers. Because they've never thought about humanity. It's not held in high regard. So they don't think anyone's going to be humane towards them. So they continue to hold on and tighten the grip of power. Period. That's the power of culture. We're seeing more, and we've grown up to see more of the winner-loser culture on this earth. And if you're aware, you've seen that you can see where it's going. I don't know the name of the book, but if you ever, it's an old Dr. Seuss book where these creatures use up their planet, and they're like, and I think one of the creatures is saying, "Hey man, you're gonna kill the planet. We're not gonna have anywhere to live." It's happening right now before our eyes. A lot of people say that's why they're trying to go to space. Because the winners want to have a place to go once they use this place up. Because they're not taking losers with them. They ain't got enough spaceships to take the losers with them. There was an African guy who spoke at a lecture I went to in the mid-90s. This African guy could identify any plant there was by just looking at it. Any plant. He learned this from his father. And during the lecture, he told us he was on a list. That if things went down or nuclear war, he was on the list to be taken somewhere where if the earth needed to restart, he would be a part of those people to restart. The winners made that list. The winners made that list. I'm not here to give you all the answers. I don't know it all. I got a link in the chat if you'd like to, come on, give your opinion about culture. We can talk. Also, if you are feeling what we're doing and you want to help us continue going, we have the Cash App banner at the bottom. Cash App, $, the original Rastafunk, capital T, capital O, capital R, $, the original Rastafunk. You're not going to change culture by dropping money on the losers. You change culture by passing on power to your kids and the next generation. Part of passing on power is making changes yourself when you see that there's a change that for the better that needs to be made. At that point, you start building a winner's culture. Because a winner's culture just doesn't have to be a winner that disregards humanity. A winner's culture, one more time, a winner's culture doesn't have to be a culture that disregards humanity. Study Singapore. Study what's going on in Rwanda right now. Study how they built Botswana. Study what's going on in El Salvador right now. You can be humane and win. That is actually the real winners. And that's not necessarily, and that's not a winner-losers culture. That's a everybody wins culture, a humane culture. We've seen winners versus the losers so much that we think that's the only way. And so that's how most people move. That's exactly why all them brothers sat there tonight or today and listened and watched Biden talk. Because they've been taught it's better to be on the winner's side in a winner's losers culture. They don't want the repercussions of fighting those who are winning right now in this society. They don't want that. They don't want that smoke. So they set their butt right there and listened. Starting their life out as pawns, as the worst loser you could be. And none of them think so. And none of them think so. Indoctrinated and losing. Because they make it seem like it's hopeless, like you can't fight them. A lot of the brothers that I see doing things, first thing I say, you might want to get protection. Why? Because that's how it's gone down in winner-loser culture. Losers who try to change things and become winners because they and that's actually a bad way to put it. Folks who have checked out of the winner-loser thing and now want to show other people how to check out and just deal with winning in a humane way. Typically, they end up like Malcolm X and Martin King. They end up like Lumumba, Patrice Lumumba. So the winners got the losers scared to check out of that system and to try something new. To build a different, more humane culture. The winners have no advantage there. So they're not giving up power. A lot of people think that China doing what it's doing is a new thing. China has been fighting the winner take all West ever since Marco Polo, ever since Alexander. They closed their borders because they just didn't. They was like, man, we don't want nothing to do with these cats. They can't even come here. The furthest the West got into China was Taiwan, an island outside of China. China wasn't having it. They've never been having it. Because they understood. We don't want none of that. Those people are winner take all, and they'll take all of what we got. So we're not having that. They've been fighting them from the first white person that came from the West over there. They've been fighting them. Like, no, we don't want none of that. We heard about y'all. We heard the powerful takes everything. And that's not saying China is perfect. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying this battle they're fighting right now, they've been fighting for a long time. That's why they're winning right now. And they've been able to fight this battle for so long because they kept their culture intact. No, it's not the perfect place on the earth. It's much better places to live than China. Much better societies that you can actually have some more freedom as a human being. Much better societies where you can practice, whatever religion or way of life you want to live. However, we're talking about their culture, of defending their culture. That's what I'm talking about. Because they knew what was coming. They saw as it came towards them how the culture changed. Where it may not have been winner take all culture, it became that once it was colonized. And I'm sure it's some deep diving scholars who can say more than what I'm saying on certain subjects. But basically, I'm talking about a winner-loser culture versus a culture that holds humanity in high regard. And I mentioned earlier how that all began. The global north had no natural resources. They didn't have any food that dropped off trees. So the people from the global north became winner take all. People in the global south, and this is around the world, people in the global south, they had trees. They weren't afraid of people who visited them because they had enough for everybody. They had more than enough. Come on in, welcome you. That's part of how they got taken over by, and because winner loser cultures saw that and was like, boy, all you got to do is just show up. They're going to start giving you stuff. We can take that easy. We can take that easy. That's how they thought. And that's how the people who were just come on in. Let's be friends. Family. Come on in, family. Next thing you know, your daughter's raped, your wife's raped, killing your son and about to kill you too. Winner loser culture. It's only one or two cultures. Winner loser culture or a culture that holds humanity in high regard. Those are the two cultures on earth. Everything else is a subsidiary of those two cultures. Black American culture, subsidiary of winner loser culture from the global north. We like to think that, we all innovative and we so great and we this and we that. No, the culture is a loser culture. It's a part of the winner loser culture, and it's on the losing side. Why can't we come up collectively? Because the best of us right now are losers. That's why. You're only coming up to equal a loser. Losing culture. And we don't see it. That's part of how the winning culture stays ahead. With the deception of you'll get an opportunity to win if you do this and do that. Follow our rules and you will win. And the losing culture says, I'm not listening to anyone else. I'm going to listen to the winners. Not realizing that listening to them only puts you further in the losing column. I mentioned last night, I compared it to a football game. I was talking about something else last night, but I mentioned it was like a football game. And the losers do everything to lose. But will argue you down that they have an opportunity to win with these actions. If we don't tackle the other team, we'll win. Let them go. If I don't throw this ball to my receiver and I just throw it on the ground, that's how we gonna win. Ooh, I'm in my own end zone. Let me let them tackle me and get a safety. We can win that way. Every action that the Black America deems to be an action that creates a winner pretty much has us in the loser column. One of the biggest quote unquote winners coming from the African American, the Black American culture was that cat Puffy. And now we're seeing some of the things he had to do to win. We're seeing the type of winner he became and how he treated the losers who thought they were winning because they were with him. That's way more common than not when you're dealing with so-called winners. They're not bringing you in to make you a winner too. Winners in this culture exploit the loser. They take advantage of the loser. That's the culture of winners and losers. That's what we're dealing with. The power of culture. The power of the winner-loser culture if you want to call it power, is that the winners win at all costs. They have no regard for anything else but winning by all means necessary. That's why Malcolm X said we will protect ourselves by any means necessary, because he understood what the winners would do to you. So you better be able to defend against yourself. You got postcards of people being hanged and crowds of other people smiling, having a picnic. Winner loser culture. Obviously, we know who lost on that day. The power of culture. The only way to change is to realize where you're at. So that you can see where there are differences in the world. If you don't realize that you're on the losing end of a winner-loser culture, you'll never see any culture that's actually winning collectively, because they'll look like losers to you. You never see it. That's part of loser culture. You don't understand real winning. Yeah. You see real winning as, man, they losing over there. What are they talking about? Part of loser culture is to comment and have an opinion on something without understanding or talking to any of the successful people who are doing it. Part of loser culture is having an opinion without research. I can do a post on a social media platform about Bitcoin, and 75% of the people will say that, man, you're gonna lose your money. Man, that ain't real, without study. %20 of the people will say, yeah, man, that's cool. You should do that. That thing winning. It's gonna be something. Without study still. Maybe 5% have studied and have an actual knowledge and can talk on it. Maybe 5%. That's how loser culture works. Some people agreeing just because it feel good to agree. Some people are disagreeing because they heard it's bad. Most have no clue. That's how loser culture works. That's how politicians can sell you anything. Because you ain't studied. You don't know. You don't go see after they say it, if it's true or not. That's how the social experiment of the Rona was a success. most people fell in line. Most people still don't know that they've had government hearings that have said it was a fraud. Most people don't know that because they don't study. They've had government hearings that shown it was a fraud. It was a money come up and an experiment to see how they can control folks. It was a fraud. They talked about it. They mandated something that they said would work in a certain way. And the doctors later on said, yeah, we hoped it would work. That's on videotape during a congressional hearing about it. Yeah, we hoped it would work because the winners don't give a damn about losers. And they'll tell you, yeah, we tried you. Yeah, we did a Tuskegee experiment on the men. We did that. How else was we gonna know how syphilis worked? We needed a control group. Winner loser culture. That's the power of culture. To make losers zombies. Following winners in that culture blindly. The losers defend the winners. Because hopefully one day they could get closer to the crumbs that's falling off the table. When you tell a loser, hey, it's places in Africa, man, we need to bring up Africa. That's the number one up and coming continent with the top countries economically in the world right now. We need to deal with that. You know what the loser tell you? They don't like us over there. You know what the loser tell you? Man, I ain't going over to the jungle. Man, I'm staying here. We got everything we need right here. Until you don't pay a winner that bill for the month. Don't pay the winners of electricity that bill. Don't pay the winners of water rights that bill. Don't do it. And then talk to me. Loser. There are two basic cultures on earth. Winner-loser culture and cultures that hold humanity in high esteem. And the power of culture, the power of either one of those cultures is if you're raised in it, you become more of it. That's the power of culture. Whatever culture you're raised in, you become more of it. The proof is folks coming from a more humane culture, when they immigrate to America, collectively they win. Collectively, they look at, this is funny, collectively when they come here, They look at us in surprise. The Black American, they look at us like, the fuck? Why? We thought they was winning. Because TV shows 2 or 3 people dancing or dunking. They're in awe of the losers that our culture has become. They shake their head and keep on moving forward to Wintersville as a collective. Us fighting and racing, crabs in a barrel. Anybody trying to come out, keeping me from coming out, I'm climbing over them. The power of culture is that the more you live in that culture, the more you become more of that culture. If you grew up in a humane culture, you don't understand inhumanity. You don't understand that shit. If you grow up in an inhumane culture, you don't understand humanity. You mean to tell me you gonna help out people with your money that you just got? That's your money. Man, I'm telling you, better. My dad, when my father passed, he left me a certain amount of money. I spent some of that money to make sure my mother had certain things. I had an uncle, one of my aunt's husbands. I love my aunt, I love my uncle. They've done some questionable things, but they're good people. For the most part, they're good people. The most religious people you'll ever want to meet. His advice was to use the money up for me. What? So don't take care of my mom? What the fuck kind of shit was that to tell me? Like, really? The fuck kind of shit was that? This is a real story. Don't look out for your mom. You need to use that for you. What? Fuck out of my face, man. That's loser culture. First of all, I thought Christians were charitable. Fuck is you know, really, man, just thinking about it pisses me off. But that's what we're dealing with in the loser culture. Well, in the losing side of a winner-loser culture. Losers just say the most ridiculous things and think they're right. And think it's correct. Think it's okay. Totally unbelievable. But believe it. The power of culture is that the more you're immersed in it, the more you become that culture. I'll end it tonight with check yourself before you wreck yourself. Understand where you at and what's happening. Understand what side of it you're on. Look at your actions to see if you're continuing this loser culture or if you're trying to check out of this winner-loser thing and be a part of some humanity. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. What culture do you want to see for your kids? If you don't see some young men for your daughters to marry, If you don't see some daughters worthy of your son to marry, then you probably need to make some changes. And I'm here to say everybody not gonna be on the boat. The boat ain't gonna fit everybody, and everybody don't want to be on there. So you can't bring everybody along to humanity. That's not the point. The point is to understand where you at and to make a change for the better, for the more humane. Because as long as you're in a winner-loser culture, that's all you're ever going to be. An inhumane winner or a loser. That's it. One or the other. Filthy rich people, the last 2-3 years of their life, they start giving away money. Why is that? Check yourself before you wreck yourself. I'm Rastafunk. You can cash out $ the original Rastafunk if you find value in what's going on. You can do that. We appreciate it. As always, as we're doing our talks, if you want to chime in, we have a link in the chat where you can chime in and join us. My opinion and my thoughts aren't the only thoughts. They're not always totally, they may not be correct in your mind. So if you have some things you want to add, you're welcome to. We appreciate it. We're here every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. until the conversation ends. So tonight, it was the power of culture, not the power of trend. Not sure where that changed, y'all. We're going to figure these things out and get it right. But when it's all said and done, we appreciate everyone for tuning in and for sticking with us throughout the weekends as we've been doing this. And we're going to continue, get better, get bigger and better. So until next Friday, 8 p.m., I'm your friend in the neighborhood, Rastafunk, and we will internalize again. Peace.